what are you doing in a motel room with an underage boy?
You should not be doing them in front of minor children.
Shortey admits to driving the teen to the motel and chatting with him under a fake name.
Yeah, you can shut the door. You're good. We're done.
State Senator Ralph Shortey's name also removed from his office.
And after searching a backpack, police found an open box of condoms and lotion.
A lawmaker in Oklahoma has been charged with child prostitution.
There was a report of an underage male that was missing. His father had reported him missing.
He was charged with 3 counts related to child prostitution.
In March 2017, police arrested the twice elected in a district covering South Oklahoma City, Ralph Shortey. He was charged with 3 felony counts: soliciting a minor for prostitution, prostitution within 1,000 feet of a church, and transporting someone for prostitution. Ralph Shortey was born in Casper, Wyoming. He spent a portion of his childhood on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in Grass Mountain, South Dakota, before moving to Oklahoma. His attorney said Shortey grew up in poverty and was abused by his mother's boyfriend. Shortey graduated from Westmoore High School in the year 2000 and studied at Heartland Baptist Bible College, an accredited Baptist college that trains religious ministers in Oklahoma City.
His defense attorney reveals that he had a life of childhood of poverty, that he doesn't know his father. His mother had some drug and alcohol issues. After a baby boy died, apparently, is when she started getting into it. She had a string of not so nice boyfriends and significant others, and he lived on a reservation in South Dakota for a while in extreme poverty. Was beaten, sexually abused. They didn't go much into that. They moved to Oklahoma at some point. His stepfather here is mean. He has a weight problem and he stutters, and he gets bullied at school. And his defense attorney, who did a pretty good job, Ed Blau, said he overcame all that.
This morning you also brought in a witness. Just talk to us a little bit about what his role was and what did he speak about?
We hired an investigator in this case to look more closely into Mr. Shortey's background and what the general public, but for this, never would have. Strike that. The general public, but for this case, would never have known that Mr. Shortey grew up in poverty on a Native American reservation in South Dakota. They would never know that he was subjected to horrific abuse by a series of stepfathers and boyfriends of his mother. They would never know that he was shot by his brother when he was 3 years old. And all of those factors, the poverty, the tragedy, went into the behaviors that led us here today.
After graduating, Shortey worked in the oil and gas industry. He first became involved in politics in 2002, becoming active in a number of Republican political campaigns. He was first elected to the Senate in 2010. He was an advocate for family values during his campaign, something that would prove to be contradictory later on.
That talked about the proximity crime. So it was within 1,000 feet, but that included the school grounds or the parks or wherever, recreational areas of higher education. There's a whole list in that section. That was completely removed by State Question 780. And so I think we ought to think about putting those restrictions back in. I don't think it needs to be 1,000 feet, but at least it should not be on the grounds of a school or playground or a park where kids are going to visit. People shouldn't be doing drugs there, and I think we need to make it clear that if you do drugs on a school ground, then you're going to have enhanced penalties. It's going to be more than just a misdemeanor.
By 2014, Shortey was re-elected. On March 2017, police acted on a tip from a teen's father when they went to a suburb Oklahoma City motel room and found Ralph with a 17-year-old boy. Police also noted that the room smelled of marijuana.
More police arrive at the Super 8 motel after getting a call from a father concerned about his 17-year-old son.
He's either here for narcotics or prostitution for narcotics.
Kids prostituting himself out? That's strong.
The officers smell weed coming from the motel room.
Smells like some hydro in there.
Let's go open up the door so we can talk to you.
The people inside say they need to get dressed first.
What we are worried about is you having a juvenile in there.
After several minutes, they open the door.
Show me your hands.
You can't see or hear the teenager on any of the videos.
The only redactions that were made are just to redact the juvenile so that there's no identifying him.
Ralph, what? Shorty. You got an ID, Shorty? Shorty doesn't sound like a last name to me.
The officers at that time had no
Shorty
idea,
is?
who Mr. Shortey was or anything or the magnitude of what this would turn out to be.
They're just trying to figure out why Shorty's in this motel room with a teenager.
So what's going on over here tonight, man?
We were just hanging out and talking about life and stuff.
The police go through Shorty's backpack and ask him a few more questions before leaving.
Yeah, you can shut the door. You're good. We're done. He probably explained. I don't know if he explained to you. We're just going to do a report, document everything.
Well, we were inside talking, and we heard a bang on the door. I honestly didn't know who it was. Couldn't see through the keyhole or the peephole. And so, the young man I was with, I know has, I've known him for. We've been talking. He's come to the coffee shop that I operate a couple times. I've even had him over to my house, play video games before. Had no idea. Told me when I first met him that he was 20. And so when they first got there, I didn't know what the issue was. Didn't know if it was, somebody trying to get in or what. Mm-hmm. So, I asked them, they said it was a wellness check or something like that, and I said, hey, I'm fine. And they were persistent, and then I could finally see a badge on one of them. And then they said that there was a minor inside the room. Obviously, I had no idea when I first met this young man. He told me he was 20 years old. Like I said, we've been talking on the phone for a while. He, in fact, for a few months, he even told me that he went to California to try to get in the music industry or something. So that was when I opened the door. It just didn't make any sense to me why, there'd be
police there.
Actually, what I asked him was, I said, are you minor? And he said, no, let me go talk to them. I said, okay. And he went out there, and that's, I don't know what they talked about, but I asked him to check his ID. So again, I'd never even thought to ask him for his ID. There was no reason to. So anyway, I guess after that, one of the men, Sergeant something, I can't remember his last name, he's bald. He lectured me quite a deal. At that point, I was, again, blood pressure. I had to sit down, couldn't even really, I don't even honestly remember what I said to him. A little bit, I think. And I just needed to not have a stroke. So I was caught off guard by that. I think they asked me at some point if they could search the room. I had my computer bag with me, and one of the men searched my computer bag as well as the room. As far as I know, there was nothing found. That was that.
They said they smelled weed in the room. Were y'all smoking weed or anything?
I was not smoking weed.
Was there any in there?
No.
Okay.
Again, I asked them to search. They wanted to search my bag. So I don't remember. I think he needed a place to stay for the night. And I think he had a bag with him. I don't know if they searched that. Okay. I did not.
A police report indicated a search of the teen's tablet uncovered a series of sexually explicit exchanges in which Shortey referred to the teen as baby boy and offered him cash in exchange for sexual stuff.
And then he goes to this hotel in Super 8 and more early on in March 9th of 2017, and he picks up this young man that he's known for a year. Met the man young man is a boy, teenager, 16-year-old. When he first met him through Craigslist, and they'd had sex once before. The boy said, the victim, and this night they were texting back and forth or kick messaging, and the boy wanted to know if he could do anything for Shortey because he needed some money for spring break, some kind of chores or some odd jobs. And that's when the senator responded on the kick message. They didn't really have anything like that, but would you be interested in some sexual stuff, doing some sexual stuff? And The kid replied yes, and Ralph Shortey picked the kid up. They go to the hotel, room 120, and the kid says later they smoke some marijuana. That Shortey first tells the police they both brought marijuana, but he tells the FBI it was Shortey's marijuana. You have to remember that the senator was using fake names on Craigslist. And the irony is that nobody would have known except the victim had a girlfriend. And the girlfriend was suspicious that something was going on with her boyfriend, had waited outside his house and sees the senator pick the boy up, follows them to the hotel, sees that they go in the hotel, calls the boy's father calls the police. So here comes more police to do a welfare check at 1 o'clock in the morning, and the kid says later they're just knocking on the door and that they had just started fooling around when the officers, he used the words fooling around, undressed, beds were unmade when the police came and knocking.
How do you, do you text him, or how do y'all communicate?
Usually phone calls.
Phone calls? Okay. Well, it's interesting because on his tablet he has a conversation that he says he had with you using an app called Kick. Do you know what that is? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, there's a pretty lengthy conversation on his tablet that he says is with the guy that is you, that he that is online, or the Kick ID is Jamie Tilley, and you told officers that night that that's what your online.
He calls me Jamie,
and
I'm not sure why.
Okay, and anyways, so we've got a conversation between him and this Jamie Tilley about. He says, I need money for spring break. Jamie Tilley says, I don't really have any legitimate things I need help with right now. Would you be interested in sexual stuff? He says, yes. This goes on about how I come get you, blah, blah, blah. We go on. He says, he starts calling this guy Daddy. He says, hurry up, Daddy. I'm super horny. Hey, keep me updated because I want you bad, Daddy. The guy named Jamie Tilley says, I'm gonna fuck you like a good little boy if you keep calling me Daddy. This goes on and on and on and on. Well, then it gets to the end. It says, okay, I'll be down the street, a couple houses, in about 10 minutes or so. He says, okay, let me know so I have an idea. Then that person says, I-35 about to exit at 4th Street. And then it says, I'm here. Well, we've got a witness, pardon me, we've got a witness that sees him get in a white Grand Cherokee, and they follow that white Grand Cherokee to the hotel, first to 4th and Eastern at the gas station, and then to the Circle K. Yeah,
this is the gas station.
Yeah, at the gas station, and then to the Super 8 where the guy in the white Jeep Cherokee and him go in, check into a room, and then go back out and go into room 120. All right, and they sit there until the police show up, where she then calls his dad, and he intern calls the police, and the police show up there to 120, knock on the door, and then you come out. So again, I ask, you told officers that you had an online identity, Jamie. This guy, Hagen, saying that he was talking to you. We got a witness picking him up at the same time that this message was sent saying, I'm here. So I kind of got to say that Jamie Tilley's you.
It's not me.
It's not you. Okay.
We communicated by phone. There was no sexual intention that night.
Now, you said he's come to your house several times to play video games?
I think just once.
Come to your house once to play video games, and then you guys met at the coffee shop a couple of times?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if I said that he told you you guys met through a Craigslist ad the very first time that he posted in Casual Encounters?
No.
Okay. Well,
Can I add, is he legitimately underage?
Yeah. And he was the first time that you met him, and I said,
16.
I asked him, I said, hey, does he know how old you were? And he said, yeah, he knows, because we had a discussion about it, and at first he was uncomfortable with it, but then he finally got over it.
The FBI also found that Shortey had previously used fake names to send and receive child pornography and to go on Craigslist to seek casual encounters with males. The younger the better, as he puts it.
And then it turns out he was leading a double life. And he had even acknowledged it at his sentencing. He lived a double life of sin. And he apologized profusely. But what happened was that he was getting on Craigslist. He was seeking casual encounters, sexual encounters with young males. The younger the better, although he did put legal.
Shortey turned himself in the same day and was released on a $100,000 bond.
Ralph Shortey was in and out of this courthouse in less than 20 minutes, and according to the judge's orders, he is to have no contact with the victim, witnesses, and no social media use.
And on March 16, 2017, Shortey was charged by the Cleveland County District Attorney with 3 felony counts: soliciting a minor for prostitution, prostitution within 1,000 feet of a church, and transporting someone for prostitution.
And now prosecutors have filed 3 felony charges against him. This includes engaging in child prostitution, engaging in prostitution within 1,000 feet of a church, and transporting a minor for prostitution.
And even though the age of consent in Oklahoma is 16, under state law, engaging in prostitution with anyone under 18 is illegal.
Now they didn't arrest Shortey that night because the age of consent is 16, and they weren't aware of this offer at first, but then they became aware of the offer. They brought the senator in. He had destroyed his, taken the hard drive out of his own computer, destroyed it, lost his phone, never turned in his Senate computer. But they found out that they had these kick messages from the kids' stuff, and it was just nasty stuff back and forth. And he realized then that his life was over, said so, and he gets charged in Cleveland County State Court at first.
After the reports emerged, but before the charges were filed, the Oklahoma Senate unanimously voted to strip Shortey of privileges, including his parking space, office, and position on committees, although he retained his seat, ability to vote, and salary.
This is a very serious issue before this House. The resolution speaks for itself.
A unanimous vote.
Senate Resolution 7 is adopted.
The Oklahoma Senate approves Senate Resolution 7, which suspends Senator Ralph Shortey from office. It also means any bills Shortey authored or co-authored will be reassigned. It also means Senator Ralph Shortey cannot use his 4th floor office here at the Capitol, and we noticed Wednesday night his name has been removed from the directory as well as from his office at 412. His name is erased from his office, from the directory, and his parking space. Senator Ralph Shortey wasn't there Wednesday as the Senate voted to suspend him from office. He may have lost his leadership positions as well as his office privileges, but Shortey still collects a $38,400 salary.
I think that's really inexcusable. I wish my colleagues in the Senate had taken the full measure of punishment and said, no, Senator Shortey, you don't get to vote, nor do you get to take taxpayer dollars.
Later, a number of Republican and Democratic Oklahoma officials called upon Shortey to step down, which he resigned from office on March 22, 2017, 6 days after being charged.
They should absolutely be held to a higher standard, even more so than the rest of us.
Sarah Baker from Oklahoma's Democratic Party is troubled by the allegations against Shortey and said the legislator should look into removing Shortey from office depending on what comes out of the criminal investigation.
Governor Fallon releasing this statement to 2 Works for You just moments ago. Ralph Shortey should resign his seat in the Senate. The charges against him do not reflect the character and decorum that we expect of an elected official. It is not acceptable. In the meantime, there's a criminal justice system in place to review the allegations. We should respect the process and allow it to work as designed.
No
comment at this time, but I will.
Days after State Senator Ralph Shortey turned himself in at the Cleveland County Jail, he announces he will no longer serve in the Oklahoma legislature. KOCO received his resignation letters he sent to Governor Mary Fallin, Pro Temp of the Senate Mike Schultz, and you, thanking his constituents for the opportunity to serve. Shortey said, quote, "Because I take that responsibility seriously, I recognize that the charges against me are a distraction to their interests and the remaining legislative session, which serves all Oklahomans. My resignation is evidence of my respect for public service and the duties of our elected officials. I ask respect for the privacy of my family, my wife, and 4 daughters as I defend myself of these charges."
The father of 4 was also divorced by his wife. According to his Senate biography, Shortey married his high school sweetheart Jennifer. They have 4 daughters. And when the couple divorced in 2018, after 16 years of marriage, his wife and children changed their last name.
He had a rendezvous. Now he's got a wife. He's got a high school sweetheart. Had 4 children. One pretty much a baby.
On September 5, 2017, a federal grand jury indicated Shortey on 4 federal sex trafficking and child pornography charges involving both the March incident and videos that Shortey was accused of distributing from his cell phone in 2012 and 2013. And in June 2018, prosecutors revealed in a sentencing that Shortey had sex twice with the victim, and the year before they were found together at the motel. Shortey pleaded not guilty to these charges. After the federal charges were announced, the Cleveland County District Attorney dropped the state charges. A federal jury trial had been scheduled for December 2017. However, on November 19, 2017, Shortey reached an agreement to plead guilty to 1 count of child sex trafficking. The prosecutor agreed to have the child pornography count removed, and Shortey was jailed immediately after pleading guilty on November 30. On September 17, 2018, Shortey was sentenced in Oklahoma City Federal Court to 15 years in prison and 10 years of supervised release, probation. In the sentencing testimony, Shortey apologized to his family, fellow Christians, and his constituents. His attorney, who said the sentence was fair, requested that Shortey serve it at a facility in Texas with a sex offender rehab program. The Bureau of Prisons placed Shortey at the Federal Correctional Institution in Seagoville, Texas.
A former lawmaker sentenced to 15 years in prison. This morning, a judge sentenced Ralph Shortey to 15 years in prison plus 10 years of supervised release. He was facing life, though the state was asking for at least 25 years.
The judge gave Mr. Shortey 15 years. He was facing life in prison, and the government had requested 25 years. I believe, based on Mr. Shortey's tragic background, that the judge did the right thing and showed him some leniency.
And we didn't quite hear, you guys requested he be sent to a certain facility, is that right?
Seagoville, it's a facility in Texas that has sex offender treatments.
Ultimately, would that be up to the Bureau of Prisons to decide?
It will. The judge can make a recommendation, but ultimately it's based on where they have room.
Is there 10 years of supervised release? Was that what we heard correctly?
That's correct. It was basically 15 years in prison. He'll get credit for the year that he's been in. He'll have to serve 85% of what's left, and then he'll be on probation for 10 years when he gets out.
Did you get a chance to speak with Shortey? What did he tell you?
In a difficult case like this, where he was looking at life in prison and the government wanted between 25 and 30 years, we were hoping the judge would show some leniency, and he did. We believe it was a fair sentence.
In February 2019, U.S. District Judge imposed a restitution fine known as the Offender Debt to Society on Shortey, an amount of $125,850, about half of the maximum amount.
And then a further FBI investigation finds evidence that he was into child pornography too, that he was sending pornographic videos that are out there involving young girls and a young girl rather and young boys. He also was soliciting teenagers to send him videos of themselves having sex, and he asked the victim to send photos of his of the kid's genital areas, and so he gets indicted eventually with child sex trafficking and in federal court and charged with child pornography. 3 counts. He makes a deal But in federal court, deals don't really mean much, except it kind of determines the minimum. The minimum he faced was 10 years. The prosecutors agreed to drop the child pornography, but the judge could still consider it. So he comes to sentencing, and as soon as he pleads guilty, he's in jail in Grady County awaiting sentencing. And he shows up, he's lost 70 pounds, he's in his orange, and he has a long statement where he apologizes to everybody. His fellow politicians, the people of Oklahoma, the Christians who, because he was going to be a missionary, and he says he knows, he makes, everybody talks about how hypocritical he was.
And that's part of the story, is that Ralph Shortey was a staunch social conservative who spoke often and frequently about family values. Yes. Was a very,
married to his high school sweetheart, wanted to be a missionary, all that. Early Trump supporter. I mean, it was just, the hypocrisy of it was just flabbergasting. And so the judge came up with 15 years. The minimum was 10. The judge had to give 10. The judge gave 15. Prosecutors, there's guidelines that help judges, and they're meant to make sure that we don't have outrageous sentences, that the crimes and the conditions and all the factors kind of make uniform sentences all across the country. And the judge could have, under those guidelines, the judge could have given him like 24 to 30, and nobody would have said much. But the judge chose 15 and didn't fine him. Said he had to pay $5,100, and there'll be a decision later on restitution for the victim, who has had, the victim had issues before, and the victim's had issues because of this.